Should you or should you not buy an entry-level landed property here in Singapore? Let's go. Following from the previous video, there was this subscriber that asked, can we do an entry-level landed property in Singapore? And some of you may have read this article before saying that landed property buyers with an HDB address, right, has gone all the way down to about 15%. And the person that's asking this question is actually one of the top tier people. And glad to know that many of the subscribers, even you yourself who is watching, forms part of it as well. And that's why today I'm going to do one video to share with you how to buy a landed property here in Singapore. But before you think that this is going to be another property video by an agent that's selling you something, telling you things that you can find from the internet, no, it's not going to be like that. I'm going to deep dive into a few things. Number one is what is landed property. I'll highlight to you the good, the bad, and the ugly about staying in a landed property. Because I'm staying in one right now, I can tell you all the stories. I also share with you my own personal experiences as well in the video. What is the performance of different market segments in terms of the landed property? How much you need to make in order to afford the entry-level landed property? And last but not least, most importantly, is what is my recommendation if you're considering to buy one. And if you enjoy watching content like this and you appreciate the honesty thus far in my videos, do me a favor, tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification bell because it really helps the channel a lot. So thank you in advance. So for those that want to know the specification on how to qualify as a semi inter-terrace, bungalow, GCB, I'll link them in the description because there are so many things. I promise you, I don't tell you things from the internet, man. Purely on my own experience. For the performance of different landed property types, all freehold is inter-terrace went up by 46%, semi went up by 39%, bungalow went up by 43%, and GCB went up by 38.66%. And what can we see from here? Today there is a strong increase in pricing for the inter-terrace, and these are only the resale. We are not factoring in all the Luxus Hill and whatnot. So many people will say that, oh, you need to buy a big unit. Actually, no, even if you buy inter-terrace is fine. However, we also need to take into consideration the different quantum, because inter-terraces can start from about $4 million. But when you're talking about a bungalow these days, you're at least talking about $8 million. So the quantum is already double. So it really depends on your affordability. Now, after knowing the performance of different market segments and different kind of landed properties, let me know in the comments which one you think is the best form of investment or the one that you prefer to buy. I would love to hear from you. Next, we want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. When it comes to the good, there's so much information on the internet because every agent is trying to sell you, ask you to buy landed property. So the good things, just go and Google good things about buying landed property. You can find a lot of information. But in a nutshell, size, additional rooms, and prestige as well. So I won't go into the rest of the details. But how about the bad things, which most agents won't tell you? Number one is parking issues. Many of the inter-terraces today, especially if you are in a large cluster of inter-terrace, you'll realize that some are multi-generational families. And because they're multi-generation, they will have one or two or sometimes even three cars. But in that unit itself, there's only one parking lot. Means to say that they will try to park outside the house, in front of the house, and some of them they are lazy to walk, right? What they do is they put a cone or put a trash can outside. Any resemblance is purely coincidental. Don't shoot at me because it's just purely a fact. When I'm buying a property, I actually look at that. That's number one. Number two, on top of parking issues, you will also be facing uninvited guests, like for example, monkeys if you're staying near the Central Catchment Reserve. So this is a video of the monkey recently just come to my house, drink my wife and my helper bubble tea, eat the cai fan, and then mess up the whole place, and there's no one you can complain to. After rainy days, you also see a lot of 飞飞. 那个叫什么? 飞飞. After rainy days, very small one. Yeah, so there are also those that will happen in your house, which in most condos you don't have. And there will be moths, there will be beehives forming in your rooftop and all this kind of thing. Basically, uninvited guests. Are you ready for that? Thirdly, also unforeseen costs. Sometimes there may be leakage from the roof. Sometimes your own toilet leak. There may be some water damages on your toilets and it leaks to the ground floor. You have to fix it. We went to check. For minor fixing, minor water leakages, it will cost you between $3,000 to $5,000. If major leakages that you need to fix, right, it will range from $8,000 up to $15,000 depending on how serious it is. Whether are you ready for that? Other unforeseen costs of repairs will be like drain chokages, which will cost you about $2,000. Termite infestation, $600. And also cost of repainting the entire house, right, will cost you about $20,000. So all this will be costs that you may not have factored in before buying landed property. Now, so much about the unforeseen costs, the noise from construction. Being a landed property, sometimes you may have neighbors rebuilding, doing renovation. Of course, yes, if you buy a condo, the people also do renovation, you also suffer from the noise. However, it's a very different situation because to rebuild an entire house will take about 1.5 to 2 years. So you basically suffer the entire piling, which will take about 3 to 6 months. You need to take the shit, especially if it's a neighbor right beside you, you are a semi or a corner terrace, right? When they're doing the rebuilding, or it may even cause damage to your structure as well. Last but not least, the ugly side about staying in a landed property is it tends to get a bit warm, especially if you're not a single loading. You always have a house behind you and in front of you. So because of that, right, you don't really have very good airflow. Most of the time, the landed properties are being built way long ago. They never take this into consideration. So which result to sometimes being in a landed property, you'll feel a bit warm. Because you like it or not, you always have a top floor unit, which is your second or third floor or attic unit, and it's exposed to direct sunlight right onto the roof. So basically, it's like an oven that bakes on the top level every single day, you like it or not. So much about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right now, we're going to talk about whether can you afford. As always, whether can you afford boils down to 3 things. Number 1 is your down payment required, the loan amount required. Can you qualify for the loan? And last but not least, can you afford to service the monthly mortgage comfortably? So for this case, we'll be using a $4.5 million landed property, freehold as an example, because I searched on the internet for $3 million, you cannot really find very strong choices lah. Yeah, but don't shade me for that because I'm also selling units for $3 million. But if you give me my choice, I will start off at 4.5 million. Offers you a lot more options. So 4.5 million, what you need is 5% in cash. Must be in cash, 225,000. 30% cash or CPF, which makes up 900k. Your buyer's stamp duty, just to take note, it has to be paid in cash first. For a resale property is $209,600. Legal fee for a $4.5 million property will be $3,500, slightly more because your legal fees actually increases along with the content of your purchase. And also the renovation plus touch-up or furnishing will cost you about $150,000. But in this case, we will not factor this in, but you please take note for that. Now, the grand total of what you require in order to buy a $4.5 million property without factoring the renovation will be $1.338 million. So do you have the cash? Yes, you're good to go. Next, the affordability, which is the TDSR. Are you able to qualify for the loan that is required, which is 75% as of the time of recording, assuming if your couple are both at age 35 years old, with a monthly car installment of $1,000, required income to get the 75% loan will be $34,000 per month. And if you're 40 years old with a monthly car installment of $1,000, total household income to get the 75% loan will be $36,900. So that is the TDSR you need in order to afford this. And definitely this will belong to the higher income bracket. And some of you will be arguing with me, hey, how can the monthly installment for the car is $1,000 only? If you're saying that means you don't meet enough financially savvy people, because a lot of my clients, even they're staying in a $2 million property, they buy properties that's worth total quantum of $4 million, also take bus, take MRT, take Grab one. And that explains a lot because many people that have high monthly car installment end up cannot afford to buy the properties as well. Any resemblance is purely coincidental. Long story short, be a bit more prudent when buying into assets that are depreciating. Last but not least, affordability. We talk about whether can you service the monthly mortgage. For me, I use this very simple equation. Basically, assuming both of you make 17k each, 34,000, because you need that to qualify for the 75% loan. After minusing off your 30% monthly CPF contribution, right, the take-home pay will be 31,000. And your monthly installment, right, assuming you're 35 years old, will be $14,123 and $15,874 per month, assuming if you are 40 years old. So for each, right, your monthly top up will be 37% in cash and 42% in cash respectively. Our supers over here, if you don't understand. And if I use this as a calculation, whether does it make sense or not, you're basically allocating 37% of your monthly take-home pay to your mortgage and 42% of your monthly take-home pay to your mortgage respectively, assuming if you're 40 years old. And does it make sense to me? Yes, because today, if you look at the bank's report, right, 40% of allocation of asset for Singaporeans goes to monthly housing and mortgage. So 40%, you're just normal. Is it a stretch? Yes, but does it make sense? Depends on yourself, your individual spending habits. Because some people that I know, they rather spend less on mortgage and more on their lifestyle. So which one are you? Let me know inside the comments. That's all for the affordability. Now, in conclusion, should you or should you not do it? The answer is very clear. No. If you are making just enough 34,000, I wouldn't advise you to go and buy a $4.5 million landed property, because in this channel, we always advocate prudency and always having a 20% buffer. So if you use the required down payment of 1.33 million, divide by 0.8, this will get you my recommended amount of capital you need before you buy a $4.5 million landed property, which lands you at 1.67 million, and that is excluding the miscellaneous renovation and furnishing costs that I mentioned about. What do you think about this? Is it still safe? Let me know inside the comments. Now, with all these considerations aside, should you or should you not do it? Firstly, if you are an HDB upgrader, definitely a big yes, you should upgrade, be it a condo or landed property, because looking at the past 10 years performance, HDB has only appreciated by about 17%. OCR 99-year leasehold properties in the resale market appreciated by 44%, and landed properties actually went up by close to 40%. And looking at these numbers, it's very, very clear that your HDB properties is not hedging your money against inflation. In fact, because of the rising cost of housing and also accommodation, things in Singapore are getting more expensive, but your money is not growing if you're only holding on to an HDB flat. So if you're owning a HDB flat, yes, you should do it. Next, if you're a private property owner, condo appreciate faster than landed property. So should you buy a landed property if, let's say, you are holding on to a 99-year leasehold private property? So should you or should you not do it? Depends on your lifestyle. If, let's say, you got 4 kids, 3 kids, you have an extended family staying with you, really need the rooms, yes, a landed property is worth considering because it's a very strong form of legacy planning. However, if let's say you just have 2 kids, sometimes I may not recommend you to go and buy a landed property. Why? Because if let's say you can split your $4.5 million into 2 separate assets, buy a $1.5 million private property to live in, 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom depending on the location, and then spend the $3 million on a private property investment that can help you churn out 15 to 20% profit every 3 years, depending on whether is it a new launch or a rental property. We have done similar content like this. Look out for the other videos. Then I would think that if you don't really need the space, I won't say you must go for the landed property. A condo owning 2 units, one, you're servicing it on your own. Second one is self-sufficient, basically using other people's money, i.e. the tenant is paying for the monthly mortgage. You just pay down payment with 25 years and the house is fully paid. Somebody pay for you one. Now comes to the last part. Why did I buy a landed property then? After saying that maybe you should own 2 properties, I would say that there are a few kind of profiles that will fit into this. Number one, you are quite a busy person at your work and you really don't like to look at numbers. Every 3 years need to flip a new launch. Every 1 year need to manage the tenancy and all these things. You just want to buy something. You know that this property will not depreciate over time. You just slowly go up. Surely, but substantially, because you're busy at your work. Next, it also fulfills another profile is that you have a big family like what I mentioned about. And since growing up, you tell yourself you want to buy a landed property. That's your aspiration to own one. Then yes, it suits you. End of the day, I still broker landed properties also. I'm not saying that you shouldn't buy, but as long as you are happy with the above whatever I mentioned about, you are good to go. Another kind of profile that should consider buying a landed property is that one of your income is strong enough to own that one private property on your own. That means one person alone already earn 30,000, 40,000. That can help you to qualify for the loan to purchase the property. And the other half is also earning a decent amount of income that can allow you to buy the second property even after buying the landed property. So this kind of profile, you should consider buying a landed and another private property. So in summary, if you have a big extended family, you should consider a landed property. Next, if you want to leave a lasting legacy and lazy to look at investment, yes. Last but not least, if one of you earns a strong enough income to support the loan of the lender itself, and the second one can actually buy a condo in its own name, that means one buy one lender, buy one condo, you should do it. So I come to the end of this video. Thanks for staying to the end. As usual, like, comment, subscribe, turn on notification bell. Any questions, leave it in the comments. If you need more advice, call me, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.